Good morning, I'm Dr. Bond. This is Bond Report 1, and we're getting into the art of roundsmanship, which is the art of getting through a grand rounds with your dignity basically intact. And I threw in a little Matthew Arnold quote there as we are here in a darkling plane. That's the last stanza of Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. Ah, love, let us be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams hath really neither joy nor peace, nor certitude, nor love, nor help for pain. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. And this is how to prevail over this kind of ignorant, dark struggle that you're doing in this unfriendly place that is their thing one of being a roundsman and getting through a grand rounds. The truth is not always your friend. Don't tell the truth to people that aren't worthy of it. You're trying to get through these things in hook or by crook any way you can. This is a one-man birthday party, and you're not getting gifts that you didn't bring. So that is a big thing. Beginning roundsmen should not be discouraged by this. This is meant to be intimidating and meant to be difficult. There are inevitable difficulties with learning any difficulty, and then Hippocrates wrote about this. Life is short, the art is long, experience fallacious, opportunity fleeting, judgment difficult. And how true that is. We're going to use the word roundsman, and we'll explain this in further bond reports. But the beginning roundsman should not be discouraged. A useful model and the way to think of this is there's basically the residents, which are the basically omega prey. They're the wildebeest of the whole thing. You have an East African waterhole. The wildebeest is the residents. For hyena, jackal type things is the junior faculty guys. They're academic, but they're trying to advance, and they do this in various ways that don't always connect. And there's the elephant, the chief. And let me walk through that just a little bit. Here is our pal resident man. And he seems like dumb, just, meat to be slaughtered. But he has certain advantages if they're thought about. He's part of a sullen, silent herd. That was me. There were 6 residents in my year in ophthalmology. That's a big ophthalmology one. That's a smallish one if you're in internal medicine or something. But you have some strength perhaps in your numbers. You have a stolid group, a patient group as you sit and watch things out. Typically a strong constitution. You're the guy who works these 110-hour weeks. And you have limited expectations. Your outlook is you've got kind of the mule cow outlook on life. You're waiting to be something to be over. You have modest goals, limited expectations. This can convey some power. And right now, your goal is to get through the next 2 hours of grand rounds, 2-3 hours, with your dignity reasonably intact. And the chief's the elephant. He's got his head in the clouds. He's got the thick hide. He's got the long memory. And ours certainly did. Dump on people standing straight up. And basically, the thing to understand about him is he's the boss man of not only us, but the junior faculty guys and those other things. He's going to go where he wants to go, and there's no stopping him. And so that's a thing to understand. Now, should the chief notice the resident, what is going to help you? The chief is not intrinsically, typically, a very kind or benevolent guy. Mine was okay, but he was not. I don't think anyone, if you look up benevolent in the dictionary, you wouldn't see his picture there. But he won't consider a mere resident what could be more mere to be a foeman worthy of his steel. He will consider the faculty guys to be a little more fitting to pick on of his station in life. And this is a key factor of the strategy of the resident man in getting through these other things. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The key fact, the elephant only is going to trample you if you get in his way where he's going to begin with. He's surrounded by things. He's not noticing the wildebeest. He doesn't even bother with them. And therefore, the wildebeest strategy for countering the elephant is simplicity itself. Try to anticipate where the elephant is going and don't go there. Stay well clear of that place. And even if the elephant is in a wildebeest trampling mood, as the footnote says, the true rampage is fortunately very rare, and it's typically directed elsewhere. But the urge to trample a wildebeest is usually general, and it's typically satisfied with one. He does one and he's finished. So you're part of a numerous herd, so your survival chances go up. So that's That's the fact of that one. We now have the case of the middle-of-the-road guy who's interesting, junior faculty man, often called JF, who is the most dangerous predator from the wildebeest point of view, the implacable enemy, particularly so at the waterhole/Grand Rounds. Here he is, looking for his chance. Now, the junior faculty man, JF, normally comes in two basic types. He's young and nakedly ambitious and wants to be a chief, or he's old, twisted, and bitter. One type can shade into the other, and it's very common. Why are these guys doing this to me? It's very common for a green resident man to think that the grilling he gets and the embarrassment he gets and the loss of dignity he gets is the product of those guys of sheer malice and spite and malice, and a lot of it is that. And a good deal of it is, but it's often more complex as you look into the motivations of junior faculty men. And it's a complicated set of motives worthy of a Shakespeare type thing. The desire to show power and strength, which you don't always feel. The desire for advancement that vaguely associated with scalps on the wall. The desire to lay some mangled trophy at the feet of the alpha predator, then this would advance you in some way, some dimly imagined distant reward. It's hard to know, as well as the desire for sheer malicious entertainment, which never wants to be discounted. Those all play a part and they go together. Now, for our example, we'll assume it's a type 2 junior faculty man. And his thwarted ambition, he sees that he's never going anywhere else epidemic, has turned into the traditional compulsive urge to therefore destroy the dignity and self-esteem of others. And he seeks to do that whenever possible, but whenever safe. And this is a key thing to say, for he lives in the customary fear and hatred. While he is a predator to those below him on the food chain, he is prey for those above. And he never for a moment forgets that. And he will view that as gross, unfair injustice. But the sheer unpleasant injustice, as he sees it, of that fact, will fuel a quiet gnawing fury within him, requiring frequent venting to the outside. You got to let these negative feelings out. So every time he's made to tug his metaphorical forelock, he's going to make somebody pay for that. And therefore, the key facto for resident men to not only understand the motivations, but what's forgotten is while junior faculty intends to stick it to him at every opportunity, junior faculty's overriding interest to avoid being trampled or eaten himself. And in the middle of the road, he's never more vulnerable than when he's out in the open chasing you, and he knows that in his bones. He can't pounce and look over his shoulder at the same time, and he's nervous, a little uncomfortable, even when he's enjoying himself dispatching prey, but gee, it's taking too long. It's not going smoothly. He's exposed out there in the savannah, and this principle can and will and should be used against him. And I'm going to give some examples. Resident man is exposed in all directions while awaiting his doom. And, you're some guy in with the tumbrils waiting for the guillotine to open up, And typically, the resident man is trapped behind a podium, your sole cover or shelter, the wide open in the manner of a tethered goat used for bait. Typically, the resident's got to go up in front of the room, present cases, get asked questions. You're representing another faculty guy. Nothing much is expected in this case when you start to get a hard time, this public hard time in the exposed front of the room and the podium. And the normal defense, of course, in action is the defense of the donkey trapped in a hailstorm. Basically, you lean forward and you plant your feet and you put your head down and you stand and take it. Donkey in a hailstorm with nowhere to hide, nothing to go. There are many styles of preying on the resident man. Let's consider one. A common one, the opening gambit, is typically in the cool tones of a quester for truth, seeker of enlightenment. Dr. Resident Man, can you remind us of the seven signs? What is your assessment? What would be your differential at this time? What would you need to know next? What would be the 4 signs of that here? What 5 things would that suggest to you, Dr. Resident Man? Now, in preparing, these guys have a kind of a planned fusillade, if you will, and they'll typically space pauses to allow poor, overwhelmed resident man a semblance of the necessary time to give his stammering, disjointed responses to this planned onslaught. But typically, it will have some timing, some flow. And your doomed attempt to give some kind of answer to this barrage will go to this sort of a minuet. It's kind of formal. It's a ritualized thing. And so he's waiting for you to put your head down, plant your feet, put your head down, stand, and take it. And you almost see a guy getting ready to assume the physical position of doing that. The Inquisition is normally followed by a deer in the headlights response, kind of the resigned apologetic grunt, the sheepish look, the embarrassed shuffle, the hesitant lame answer, followed by another seconds. You keep following up, like boxing when a guy's weakening and he's getting his guard down, and he's getting ready to plant his feet, lower his head, stand, take it. And a series of follow-up questions are progressively done, and there will be wonderment at resident man of, gee, how did you get even so far in life as your present unexalted station? And it's more like a bullfight before the ritualized kill. Sometimes you get some picadors in or some other guys, the same guys in some bar fight getting ready, making fun, and the picadors insulting blade after blade. But you're never expecting even a minor surprise as one more resident man bites the dust. He's ready. He knows what's going to happen. It's a fixed thing. And if it was a prize fight, they'd stop it. Grand rounds is much less humane than boxing. Where does this leave resident man? Now, the power of those things is typically, to understand the mentality of that, makes the counters suggest themselves, break the flow, disrupt the plan, take bullies out of their timing. Warren Spahn, National League, asked how he won 363 games lifetime. He said, well, hitting is timing, and pitching is destroying timing. And the idea is to get this guy out of his timing and his prepared things. There's an Ethiopian proverb which says, when the emperor's carriage passes by, the wise peasant bows deeply and silently farts. I get a suggestion of that with Warren getting ready to break some timing there. He's looking in there knowing something, but who knows if that's happening. But how? How do you take the guy out of his timing? How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you get with St. Warren? Many people ask this, but how? How? And here's the guy, as we try and bring it into a science. Here is our beginning roundsman that we're going to teach how to wise up. My favorite movie of all time is The Man Who Would Be King, Sean Connery and Michael Caine. And there is a phase in there where Danny Dravit, played by Sean Connery, says to these guys they've assembled, and they've got rifles in their hands, these guys who've never done anything. He said, listen up, you sorry lot. I'll spare you my Sean Connery imitation. Listen up, you sorry lots. We're going to teach you to slaughter your enemies like civilized men. And so this is what we're going to try and do. Thank you. More to follow.